Good morning, guys. It's Goose from the Wise Wealth Discord. Today is February 3rd, 2025. Kicking it off with another rocky start on a Monday. Last week was something very, very similar. In fact, we were right about the same price point that we were last week. We're at these breakout levels on the SPY. QQQ as well. We were in support levels. We came down on the Monday, then ended up finding buyers. I still am a little bit optimistic. I will say I'm a little less optimistic than last week just because there's not an FOMC catalyst. Certain earnings like Meta, that stuff that played out last week. It ended up being a great buy the dip opportunity. We got above the 50, mounted that, came back, retested just like we wanted. What ended up happening towards the end of the week was the tariffs that were raised by Trump. There's a lot of different detailed ones. I can't remember the exact percentages, but you have Colombia, China, Canada, Europe, most of Europe, and all of that. So he was just passing them out, as Jimmy said, the funny saying, the Oprah Winfrey style. You get a tariff, you get a tariff. So he was just passing them out, and it did definitely scare the markets. Yields did pop momentarily, but honestly, the 10 years kind of tame. I do like that. That is one thing that I think is slightly bullish. Like they tried to make that push in the bonds, and it's still heading lower. So, is it a buy the dip moment? Is the question. This one, like I said, I'm a little less confident in it, but knowing that we're still in these breakout levels, we're still holding supports. You know what I mean? That's where I think it looks okay, but it's the retaliatory on the retaliations on the tariffs are actually going to matter. So it's like, do we come up? Do we touch this 50 and then, come back down and test support at the 500 level? I'd much rather be buying calls at the 500 level. But that's the one place where I feel like I would want to short as well. Because if it starts to lose that support, that's going to be big because it's flagging up, as you can see. We have a beautiful flag. It came into it on Friday, and that's exactly where it was denied. So if we lose this 50, which we are in pre-market, we're going to have to try and regain it to gain bullish momentum to break out of that. Or we get denied here, come back down, and we got to see what happens in this area. If we start to lose this, yes, the 200-day can be met. That's what Jimmy was posted on in the Discord. I'll pull his chart up really quick. He had a nice chart on SPY. So he's saying that, the tariff retaliations are scared, big gap down, messy chart. And it's like we have the mini head and shoulders, but it's coming right into the previous gap down positions. And that's kind of what you want to see is like a retest of those big levels. But it's the retaliation for me. It's like you don't really exactly know and can't predict those type of macros. But as you can see, that is exactly where you're finding buyers. And it's like if you're finding buyers right now, is the retaliation really that scary? I don't know. Like I'm sure it'll have a pullback in the moment, but I think most of these dips are finding buyers where you should be finding buyers. And if there was enough fear in the market, I don't think there would be, this buy up right here. Like I don't think people would be buying at supports if there's that much fear. People would just continue to relentlessly sell. And I don't see that right now. Like I get it. Yes, every Monday we ended on Friday of last week. Last Monday, gaps down and it goes all the way down here. That's scary. But you have to keep a level head when it comes to it and look at price action. And the reason, we're getting in calls down here is because look at these RSIs. What happens when you see these extreme RSI sells? Right here, a perfect bounce off support. Right here, is the medium term low. You know what I mean? When you see these very oversold moments on the RSI, this was a huge dip. What ends up happening, they get that buy, and you're finding the support at the 50, so that helps. That's why I'm saying, like, we could come down here to 500. We may not even get all the way down there, but this is the big level up above that you want to watch, like the 518 level on Qs. SPY lost its 50, so it's like it's probably going to flag out. If it gets above this, we have a gap. It'll be an easy move to like 597, 600 is probably going to be that level where you'll find a sell block, to trap a little bit more bears, and then it's got to grab liquidity and go. But as you can see, like levels even last week when we were playing with all that volatility and macro events, I was like during the FOMC, I think they come grab some bear liquidity. You can see these candles; they're right below support, just grabbing liquidity, then just shoot it up into Friday. And that was a great play. I mean, you didn't have to play calls, but there's a pretty good, long area there through the FOMC when it was down, and then it kind of continued to go up. I thought there'd be a level of resistance around all-time highs and filling this gap, and tariffs came in. That's when the news came in, and now we're below the 50, but we're at a Monday morning where we're down, and it's typically when you want to be buying. But like I said, I'm a little less confident. So me personally, I'm being a little bit like cautious. I wouldn't even say patient, definitely patient. I'm really quick to the trade nowadays just because of how, the news flows are coming out. But we're just chopping around. So it's like it could go up, it could continue to go down and go test that 200. But if IWM gets down there, what have we been, looking at? This handle that's forming. There's a beautiful handle. Let me put it on the daily so you can see a little better. But you have the cup, and now it's forming like a janky handle. Is like if it does start to get above this, get denied, it could be forming a huge candle. And then when that does break, I think we see beyond all-time highs. Just my opinion. We still need the 10-year to come down and stuff to that nature. But going into equities, I mean, Apple, they didn't have like the best earnings. They just, barely scrape by, but that's still a good thing. Is you have to realize we're in like a very tight, monetary policy. They were tightening for a while, and if these big tech companies are continue to, keep beating, they don't even have to be amazing, but you're growing. You know what I mean? And Nvidia, they've had bad news flow lately, but this is one of the strongest, one of the best stocks out there when it comes to growth. If you just look at their earnings year over year, they're growing consistently every quarter. So what they're saying is not a lie when it comes to AI demand and people using it. Chips are flying off the table. So when you get these dips and you start to see it break its 200, you don't think it's going to come back and retest this? It's kind of fishy. We're right in the line of the sand. You could see denial, it buys up, denial, buys up, denial. Once it loses these levels, it's big. So 115 is like the line in the sand. It's been bought up here plenty of times. I'm going to go into the shorter time frames to show you guys. But we also have a divergence. It's like you get that bullish divergence. Remember what a divergence means? It's a showing of the trend weakening, and it's basically using a momentum oscillator to show that. Is that it doesn't mean that it can't continue to diverge. Divergence can last forever, but it's showing that there's a weakening in momentum and a possible flip, in structure. And what has it been lately? It's been bearish for Nvidia. So when you see these lower lows, but then in the RSI it's showing a lower high in the same instance, that's kind of a good point to show you that, maybe buyers could start to step up and slow down the momentum of sellers. But there's still a lot of day left. I'm not as confident as I was last week, where it's like, this is a buy the dip moment, just some bad headlines. Because this is real news. Tariffs and taxes and inflation, those are all real things to cash flow for Americans. And personally, deep down, I do think that some of the things that they're doing in the White House are a bullish thing, but it's going to take time for major media and certain people to see that in data. But I think this is a good spot. Personally, if it does start to break below that, obviously we could start to see the 110, 100 area, because you can see where these bottom end of the ranges are, right at the 100. So if it loses this level, retest it. I do think we see the retest of the 200 before we start to see the 100, in my opinion. Usually there's always that, even if we start to drop the 110, we could probably see a quick move up to 122. Microsoft still in this chop range. You can see on the weekly, we're just going sideways. They're dealing with their cloud and stuff like that, but anywhere around 400, I think, is a buy. It's been proven almost a year now, January 2024, just straight sideways. So I would be confident in longs at 400 if it does start to go down there. You can see it's at 411 in pre-market. Nvidia, we went over that one. It is diverging now. I'm a huge buyer in the 110 area. Right here is kind of where I'm watching it. If it does straight break below, then I would be looking at 110, but we'll see how they come out. I do truly think that retaliations could send this lower, and Monday may not be the day to buy like it was last week. So I'm trying to remain patient. You have Tesla. they're flagging up as well. There's like a lot of these things are in bull flag situations. They just got up to resistance, and that's where we got shot down with the news flow. So we'll see how it plays out. But Tesla, you could see the obvious resistance, the line in the sand right here. Every time it gets up there, it gets sold off. So now we're, right in the middle. It could come test this 50, come back down. We'll see. 370 area is a huge buy. It needs to get above 400, 415 to get closer to breakout levels. 420 would be huge to capture. Then you're gone. 440, 450. Once we break this flag, that's going to be all-time highs yet again. It's just a simple pullback. You have to realize how high it went since that recent breakout, and now it's just like doing its digestion move. 88%, you know what I mean? And then you have a pullback of, it's probably getting close to the fib, to be honest. Total of 24%. So yeah, it's like a 0.25%, the 0.25 maybe. But breakout levels, oh, messed it up. There we go. Yep. As you can see, where did that huge bounce come from? As soon as it touched the golden fib and the support down here, because this is previous all-time highs. So as long as you hold that and it comes down and balances out, that's going to be a huge push because they're building liquidity at this same point where it was sold out. It started selling that bear pressure. So I like Tesla. I do. You can see the golden pocket holding. You can see the flag forming. It is beautiful. But these are things that I'm watching for because they're all going sideways. You know what I mean? NVIDIA's diverging. Tesla, Meta. Meta's beautiful. I mean, they still have their breakout levels. But what I'm getting to is, yes, they're flagging up. They're doing these beautiful things that look really good. It's bullish, but that's why we wait for the news. Is like if the retaliations are bad, these things can turn bearish very quickly if they fall through. Microsoft starts to fall through. Apple, falls below their 200-day moving average again. Then that's another leg lower, and we're probably going to head for the 200 area. Tesla, if it breaks below 370, these things can happen. But as of right now, if it's not broken, you don't have to fix it. Every time it's usually by the dip. You're finding buyers every time. And that one time we may not find buyers, you may lose, but that's why you manage your risk in every trade. And losing once out of, how many times does a Monday gap down and then it goes up? You have to go with the odds there. You don't want to be too contrarian to where you're going against all odds all the time. But at the same time, your risk to reward is a hell of a lot better when you gap down. If you're gapping down 2-3%, your risk to reward is a lot better to be going long at those moments than on Friday after we went up 3%. So yeah, those pullbacks do happen, those things do happen, they get scary, but there's levels below that 9 times out of 10 you're going to find buyers. And if you don't, maybe you lose the trade, but I like to be on the odds side of the trade. And yes, I do see the possibility of Apple continuing down testing their 200. Do you see the possibility of Microsoft losing this big support at 400? But I'm not bearish until those things happen, is what I'm trying to get at. I'm not bearish until Amazon starts to get below this 50-day moving average at 220. Short term, yes, there's probably a short there. You could potentially play that. I'm not saying that there's not short opportunities, but I would be looking long still. Netflix still flagging up beautifully. Another one where it's like, yes, it's flagging up. Bad news comes down, test the 50. Some good news happens. They lift some tariffs before Tuesday. AMD has great earnings. NVIDIA starts to pop. AMD starts to pop at this divergence level. They have a divergence as well. AMD does. They have earnings this week, or tomorrow, but you can see the clear divergence. So they're showing that the trend is weakening, and what's happening? They're coming into support. You have higher highs, higher lows here. You can see it clearly on the RSI, and then right here, I'll make it smaller. What's happening? Lower lows, lower highs, lower lows, lower lows. So it's showing that divergence. It's showing that it's slowing down, and then it's coming into support. So me personally, I'm wanting to buy maybe some shares. Maybe we could see, a test of the 50-day moving average at minimum after earnings. I don't know. Usually when a company like this continues to go down into earnings, they're pricing it in. So tomorrow, when they do have earnings, it could pop. and it's vice versa. If you're going up into earnings, then sometimes you could sell off into it. But you could see that the last few earnings that they've came down into support down here, they've had a decent one and it pops. This one same as well. It came down into a support, started losing it, and it popped. Down here, it was reds that dropped a little bit, but there was still a slight pop a few days after the earnings. So now that I'm seeing the divergence and I'm seeing what previously happened the last 4 quarters, I think it's possible AMD is a good play. I just don't want to be too bullish because they're probably one of the weaker names out there for semiconductors. You can see the moving averages are below them, so I wouldn't be too aggressive. That's about it. I was shouting out coin, but same thing. I mean, it's coming right into its support on a Monday morning. I am telling you, if it does break below, I'm okay with being short. You know what I mean? I am, but the odds are not with you when you're shorting on a gap down like that. Usually you get torn up. So I'm kind of leaning on the bullish side this morning, not as confident as last Monday, but we have some things to go over for this week. ISM manufacturing PMI, Jolt's job openings would be huge. That's Tuesday. That's where, shorts can get, I was about to cut, shorts can get messed up though and ran through. Wednesday, ADP non-farm employment change. Thursday, unemployment claims. That'll be huge. Then unemployment rate on Friday. I do appreciate you guys tuning in. Be sure to ask me any questions of what stocks you want me to look over. It doesn't always have to be big tech. Those are just my favorite. I feel like they lead most of the time and kind of give you a forecast for where we're heading in this market. Still in flag and breakout territory. I'm not bearish until we're below, on QQQ 500. SPY, if we start to get below the 585 level, then, you can start to get bearish down to the 575. Until that happens, I think we still go strong. I think there are some catalysts out there that can start to ease some fears and lower the nervousness and shakiness with tariffs coming. But thanks for checking in, guys. Let's have a great week. Continue to manage your risk and just be great. Come on.